We'd like to thank Atticas for coming on our stream and really giving us this amazing knowledge on warrior leveling. Please head over to his channel, consider subscribing and viewing his content. It's really top notch. The link will be in the description below. Enjoy.
As far as like leveling with a warrior as well, like I never go prot, I never go fury. Like I know that some people say that leveling as fury is faster until 40, but like that may be the case if you're like new to it. But when even if I know how to play fury, but the like level of like fluidity that I have with arms and like how I know, like it's like a muscle memory for like an internal clock for pressing abilities and knowing when I'm gonna have enough rage to do stuff like that. For arms, it just functions way better for me, and I just feel like I go much faster. But also, yeah, you don't have to like respec to be tank in leveling dungeons. You can tank, and I think that you can even do that at max level. I haven't tested it myself. But
I mean, absolutely. I mean,
man.
I mean, a lot of tanks will go like a fury spec because the amount of threat you can put out is just so much more than a protection spec. And as long as you have the gear, to back up and the healers to back that up, you should be fine. Some people like leveling as prot. I think so. Let's talk about leveling as a warrior real quick, right? Let's just say I'm interested in playing a warrior, right? I've never played a warrior in Classic WoW. What is my first, so I have, right now I have the talent tree up. What are my first, where do I go first?
I'm going to be doing this on my screen as well, so y'all can all follow along wherever you're watching from. But, okay, so very first thing you do, because at low levels, Heroic Strike, it increases your damage, but you can't think of a Heroic Strike as just costing 15 rage. So you have to think of Heroic Strike as costing you 25 rage, because when you're using Heroic Strike, it's replacing an auto attack where most of your rage comes from. So you get like 10, 15 rage based on it. So you're missing an entire auto attack and you're spending 15 rage. So you don't really use Heroic Strike unless you get over like 40 to 50 rage. So obviously the first thing you want to do is go Improved Rend, because that only costs 10 rage. It doesn't affect your auto attacks, and it's just going to straight up increase your damage, and you need it later on for deep wounds. So there's like a triple whammy there for why it's good. Then you go 2 points in Deflection, because you don't get Improved Heroic Strike. It's not worth.
Right.
And then some people go Improved Charge, but I don't feel like it's necessary. It's only 5 rage extra, and you need Tactical Mastery maxed out to be able to hit all of your main abilities. Like the main reason for switching stances later on is to have, to press like Intimidating Shout. I mean, well, no, you don't need it for that, but like to disarm somebody, or to switch and use a Whirlwind real quick, or to have enough rage to overpower. So you could go 2 points in Improved Charge and then 3 points in Tactical Mastery. But in my opinion, you just go 5 points Tactical Mastery.
I mean, that sounds so good to me. I've played Druid before. Being able to have rage when you go in and out of form or in this case stances is huge. Having no rage when you go into Berserker stance and not being able to intercept, it's like standing there with your dick in your hand. What do I do? You need rage to do anything as a warrior. So I think that's important.
Especially in PvP situations as well. When again in Classic, you don't have resilience, and obviously you wouldn't when you're leveling in any part of the game, but you don't have resilience or anything, so damage can be very, very spiky, and it's like a chess match against almost every single person you're playing against. And if you don't have enough rage when you switch stances to use one of your key abilities that is going to definitively turn the tides of the battle, then you're essentially allowing them to get an extra turn on the chessboard. So that's another reason why you need Tactical Mastery.
Yeah, I think that's huge right there. So let me just, before we go on further, so this is an arms leveling spec, right?
Yes.
So is this good for PvP servers as well? So if you're going to be doing a lot of PvP, would you say this is a good spec for that as well?
Yeah, definitely.
Okay.
This is essentially the exact way that you spec for PvP at max level.
Oh, okay.
It's slightly different in kind of by choice. It depends on when you get down to Improved Hamstring and then what weapons you go with and whatnot.
Gotcha.
But yeah, I mean, this is essentially exactly what you use for max level PvP.
Gotcha. What's up, Ion? All right, so let's continue going. So this is really exciting.
Okay.
I really like this. Yeah.
So next one is going to be Anger Management, just because this is going to help with your rage increase, obviously, and it's just 1 point, so you might as well knock it out of the way. That way you're getting, because if you were to go Improved Overpower here, or go start putting points in Deep Wounds, then you start to run into the problem of I just it's still effective, and in the long run, it's good. But putting 1 point in anger management is essentially the same percentage effect as putting 2 points in overpower or 3 points in deep wound.
Oh, okay.
So you go 1 point in anger management, and then I go with deep wounds next,
Right.
because I go ahead and max that out completely.
Okay.
Because you know, if you do get a crit, crits are more common than, well, no, I wouldn't say than more common, but I feel like deep wounds is more effective in the long run than getting overpower right away, because overpower is only available when you dodge, but crits can happen all the time.
And that's the thing is, like, you talked about in your video, agility being very important for warriors.
Mm-hmm.
So this goes really good with that as well.
Mm-hmm.
With having that agility. So I just want to read this again. Anger management, guys, what it does, increases the time required for your rage to decay while out of combat by 30%. So that is huge while leveling, to have less rage decay. And then deep wounds, your critical strikes cause the opponent to bleed, dealing 60% melee weapons average damage over 12 seconds. That's huge, dude.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that is like
huge. And then if you've got rend and deep wounds on there at the same time, and then, I mean, we could talk all day about the other little intricate effects, but I mean, say you've got some druid that's ran by and giving you thorns, you're just like basically melting these people just with dot damage.
Wow.
Pretty
and
good.
So that's like really good against especially rogues that have no way, like, unless they're a dwarf, to get out of, to get rid of the bleeds. And I mean, one of the most dangerous things about warriors is their bleeds. It's just crazy.
Yeah, to touch on the rogue thing real quick, the main thing before your hamstring, when you are fighting a rogue, if he tries to gank you, is get your rend on him. I don't care what you're doing. Put your rend on him so that dude cannot sit there and back out and re-stealth.
Yes, that is literally the epitome of, like, and another thing that I've noticed, like, so I being a rogue have dueled many warriors, and I feel like a bad warrior, I'm able to crippling kite them. So basically, is what I do is I would put crippling poison on them, put my bleeds on them, and basically back away from them in their dead zone where they can't charge me or attack me, and then re-stealth. But all they have to do as a warrior is piercing howl to keep you in combat, correct?
Yeah, basically. And also, demoralizing shout knocks rogues out of stealth.
Right. So demoralizing shout,
if they're near you.
If they're near you.
What's the range
on
you can
that?
just throw that up. It's like, I think you can increase it with booming voice, yeah. But it's not like huge. I think it's about 7 yards, 8 yards maybe. But touch on these questions real quick in YouTube.
Yeah.
Let's see. We just talked, Ion, we're just starting talking about arms first. We're going to go over Fury next. Yes, anger management, that was something I was going to bring up. It's also a hidden tooltip. It doesn't say it on there, but anger management also makes you generate 1 rage per 3 seconds while you're in combat.
Oh, wow, that's huge.
Yeah, so the best screens, yes, while you're leveling would probably be Spirit Agility, of the Wolf, but that doesn't mean that's like the only thing you want to stack, obviously, because you need stamina and whatnot, but as far as like your strength goes, you can't avoid it. Like, you're never going to be able to not get strength stuff, but like your damage is mainly increased by your weapon. You could have no additional strength and have just a crap ton of agility and spirit, and you'd probably be leveling at the same speed or killing things at the same speed as someone who purely stacks strength.
Such a great point, dude. I love that you talked on that. Like, before, and especially when I leveled like a warrior or even my enhancement shaman, I'm like, oh, I need strength. And Melron all the time is like, dude, when you put the equation to how much attack power equals DPS, look at the DPS first. Like, a weapon that does say 42 DPS and has like 32 attack power on it is not as good as a weapon that does 46 DPS. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like, the DPS is the most important thing. Your weapon damage is the most important thing. And I feel like a lot of the times, a lot of people get too fed up into looking at your strength. Oh, I gotta stack strength. Like, that's my damage.
Yes.
Dude, it's all about your weapon, man.
It may be basic, but a lot of people just don't know that you do want the slowest two-hander that you can possibly get. I mean, if there were a 6-second weapon speed two-hander, I would be getting that hands down every single time, because when you do crit with a slow weapon, it crits really hard.
Really hard, dude. Really hard. And so another thing I want to say is, I want to ask you, Atacas, is, okay, so spirit is really important as a warrior, right? So I seem to think it in this way. Like, so Temuljan asked, was it Temuljan who said, greens are leveling as a warrior are agility and spirit. So would it be better, though, to say have like agility strength gear on, and then as soon as you're done combat, switch on some spirit gear?
And see, this is what you have to think about, and at the same time as that. Now, when I'm trying to do this, you're trying to maximize your time playing and your gold accumulated.
Right.
But if you don't, like, if you carry around 2 separate sets of gear, you've got to take that into consideration as far as how much stuff you can carry in your bags. Because when you're leveling, your bag space is going to be pretty limited. So if you've got 6 other pieces of gear in your bags, that could be essentially 6 stacks of grays that are selling for 20 silver each.
Wow.
So
yeah,
you gotta just think about it. I mean, like, you could do it. It would definitely improve your time because you're gonna be killing stuff faster with the agility strength stuff of the tiger. But then you could throw on just stuff that's got tons of spirit in between combat. But see, most of the time as well with that, a lot of spirit gear isn't mail, and I have anxiety, and I am worried about wearing stuff that is not mail when I'm just running around and a rogue could pop out of somewhere.
It does, dude. Like, so my shaman is just at the point now where he's going from leather to mail at level 40, and it is such a huge difference from wearing leather to mail, dude. Like, the survivability of that armor is huge when you're fighting a rogue, a warrior, any melee class. It is, like, unbelievable. And a lot of times at that level 40, sometimes you might have to look at the armor. So if a gear has less strength, less stam, but has way more armor, you got to take that into consideration as well.
Oh, yeah. That's why Tortoise armor is so good, dude. Like, Tortoise armor has, like, double the armor for a chest piece at that level. It's absurd.
That's crazy. Crazy. So let's continue on. So right now, it looks like we're going to have to backpedal and put some more points somewhere, right?
Yeah, we just go 1 and improved over power here, and then we come back and finish that in a little bit.
Okay, gotcha. Okay, so I'm guessing, these both look really good, these next two. Two-handed specialization or impale.
Yeah, so here's the thing with two-handed weapon specialization. Two-handed weapon specialization is obviously good,
right?
But it's not necessary to max it out, and that sounds crazy, but there's just other talents that drastically increase your damage and, your utility better than having an extra 2% to weapon damage. Because, I mean, think about it. Even if you're hitting someone for 1,000 damage, that's only an extra, 20 damage?
Right. Yeah.
So you go 2 and impale here because increasing the critical strike damage bonus of your abilities is ridiculous, obviously.
Yeah.
And then you go 3 and two-handed weapon specialization.
Okay.
And then this opens up your next tree, and you get sweeping strikes. This is where you can actually start pulling more than one mob, especially if you've kept up with your gear and whatnot, and you have some decent stamina and armor and whatnot. Then start pulling at least 2 at a time. And here's something that's kind of it's kind of basic, but it's kind of not. When you've got sweeping strikes up and you press cleave, it cleaves, and then you proc one of your sweeping strikes off of the original mob you hit, so it hits the other mob twice once from the first hit, and then the cleave hits the mob next to it, and it procs the sweeping strikes off of that hit as well.
Oh,
shit. So it bounces back.
Essentially, so your next 5 melee attacks strike an additional nearby opponent. So, and what's the cooldown on that? 2 mobs?
30-second cooldown.
30-second? Okay, that is really good.
Yeah.
That is really good. No,
so the next one you go on to is you go 5 points in axe specialization, because you're probably going to be using axes. If you got the whirlwind axe, that thing's going to last you forever. It's well worth just keeping it. And I mean, the crit, you want axes. You want to be trying to get axes.
Does that go for Alliance and Horde? Even though the Alliance, if you're a human. Okay, so even though you're a human and you get mace and plus sword, it's still better to use that axe because crit is just so important for warriors, right? That's why orc warriors are so good.
Yeah, and see, this is just where it comes down to preference, though, because you don't have to play with axe specialization. A 10 out of 10 would recommend, but this is especially in PvP, if you want to potentially get a Hand of Justice proc, a sword specialization proc, and a freaking Wind Fury proc at the same time, then you can go sword specialization, and that's fun. But as far as overall highest chance of burst capability, you go with axe specialization. And then also, maces are good, especially if you get the Unstoppable Force, because it already has a mace proc on it. So
those are cool. They're cool, but dude, 5% crit is huge. That's huge. That is absolutely huge. I mean, and when you think about, on top of that, being an orc already getting that increased, damage and chance to hit crit, whatever, with that points, which is pretty good. It's just putting those two together as an orc warrior is just so damn good.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my god.
And Bispod, to talk about weapon speed, yeah, I mean, like, the weapon damage numbers are what matter, but like I've tested them both. Like I've gone and got Whirlwind Sword, which is like the fastest one, and then tried it like side by side on a different server with Whirlwind Axe, and like the difference in damage is astronomical. Like you feel like you're hitting people with a freaking paper towel roll with the sword. That's that fast.
Wow.
But I mean,
and everything that matters too, right, is time of engagement, right? So like in a PvP encounter, you might be getting feared, you might be getting stunned, so those hits, when you do hit, matter so much more. Mm-hmm. And the thing is, like, that's why top end damage is so good. Like, time of encounter is everything. So if you're able to just sit there and hit the target nonstop with nothing happening, then yeah, they might come closer together. But when you're on a PvP realm and you have to look at things like other things happening, the time of engagement that you do have when you're hitting makes those things like using a high end damage speed and using axe specialization, all those things, so much more important. That's what I've noticed so much more with my shaman, dude. Like,
yeah, let me keep going through some chat stuff here. One guy, a friend of mine in my stream, said, "I'll never forget the time I got a sword spec and Seal of Justice, or what is it? What? And another sword spec proc at the same time." In a matter of like 5 seconds.
Oh, dude, it's so nice. I've had that happen on my
beautiful
rogue as well. So
and then new media, yes. Okay, so it's kind of like a thing. This is where that like you get that kind of muscle memory and kind of like this is where the experience comes into play, and you'll figure it out as you play. It's not that hard to determine, but yeah, the rule of thumb is to look around 50, like 50 to 40 rage, but you've also got to take into consideration like, all right, am I going to need to hoard this rage for the next combat or the next like little fight, or can I just go ahead and blow as much rage as I want in this fight? So you just got to be like thinking like 2 or 3 steps ahead. That's kind of the whole thing with warriors. The whole time you're leveling is thinking about things way in ahead.
That's a good point. Then, like, is somebody else going to pull, or can you pull another target at this time? But Peter Sean is a good question. So where do you even farm as a warrior for money? That's a pretty good question. So
if you're talking about max level, then yeah, Eastern Plaguelands, there's tons of bats out there and whatnot that have like that drop like grays and just tons of stuff that just actually sell for a lot. But for your mount, there's like, can't even remember the horde one, but I know that for like Alliance, if you just run like a, what is it? Not Menthol Harbor, the place that's right under Ratchet.
Yeah.
Theramore. So if you go out of Theramore and turn right and just run up the beach, there's tons of like yellow turtles that are around like level 34 to 36, I think. And the grays they drop sell for a lot, like a ton. And then if you've got skinning on top of that, then you're just getting leather from them as well. And so that's and because they're yellow, you don't have to worry about pulling too many. But then there's camps of Murlocs as well. If you're good at like the whirlwind, sweeping strikes, all that crap,
right?
You can get a little ballsy if you want with the camps of Murlocs, but that's a good place to farm up for your mount.
That is. So, and another thing I've noticed with like classes like warriors and rogues. So on my rogue, I can't do the DM farm. I can't do a lot of things that I do like on my mage and my priest. Rogues and warriors are really good, in PvP, especially if you're geared as a warrior, and you have PvP gear. You can usually kill people pretty quick. So I found that like a lot of those spots where people farm for fire elementals, for elemental fire to make protection potions, or elemental earth, things like that, that warriors tend to be pretty good in those spots because they're just so good at charging someone and killing them in like 2-3 hits.
Yep. So moving on with the tree. So this is where my opinion comes into it.
Okay,
but
cool.
If I'm wrong here, then you guys can go with what you want.
Just don't kill him if he's wrong, guys.
Yeah. Yeah. So what I do is I go 3 points in improved hamstring here because I like to be able to root people, and I like, especially a mage. Like if you're fighting a mage out in the world, being able to root them is huge. Because speaking on mages, by the way, do not ever intercept a mage unless he has blinked. Don't do it.
Great point, dude. So what I love doing as a warrior, like seeing as a warrior, right, is you charge a mage, he blinks, and then right away intercept.
Yeah, then he's just like, well, Pope. I mean, he can still slow you down and get away, but
or he would like a lot of times mages at that point ice block because they're like, oh fuck, what do I do?
This is where you can play with the
kind of play with it. So Yeah.
Yeah, if you want just a little bit more damage, then just put 1 in improved hamstring and then finish filling out 2-handed weapon specialization.
Okay.
But I just prefer to just know that I'm going to get a higher chance of rooting them.
Gotcha.
So that's why I go with 3 in hamstring. And then with the final point, you put it in improved overpower.
Improved overpower? Okay.
Yeah, because that's another 25% chance to crit. So yeah,
Gotcha.
I forgot. Sorry. Always max out overpower. But yeah, then at that point, you're down to Mortal Strike. You get Mortal Strike. And then when you go over into Fury, first thing you max out is Cruelty, because 5% more crit, obviously.
Huge. Yep.
And then the second trait, a lot of people think that getting Unbridled Wrath is good, but no. Unbridled Wrath is literal dog shit.
Unbridled Wrath gives you 8% chance, so I'm guessing stacks up to what?
40%.
To generate an additional rage point when you deal melee damage with WoW. So that's just only one rage point. Right.
1 rage point, and it's a 40% chance. I mean,
that's
so what? You get a less than 50% chance to get 1 point of rage every 3.6 seconds. No, thank you. So, booming voice, you go with that just because it makes your duration of battle shout. Yep, makes the duration of it longer. And then from that point, go to Blood Craze because Blood Craze is the jam. And then you go, well, Piercing Howl before Blood Craze. Sorry.
Okay, so yeah, Piercing Howl. That's something I was looking at. Piercing Howl. I'm like, I love that so much. It's so good. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, that one first. Then you do the 3 points in Blood Craze. Then you get 1 point in improved battle shout.
1 point in improved battle shout.
Yeah, just 1. And then,
of
course, max out in rage by the time you hit 60.
All right, so that is not only a great leveling spec, but a great endgame PvP spec as well, correct?
Mm-hmm. That's like exactly as you spec for PvP endgame. Like, there's no other option in my opinion. Now we're going to go over Fury for leveling.
Okay.
So you start off with Fury leveling exactly the same way as you did when you're starting to max it out at 40 from arms. So you just go, right. 5 in Cruelty, 5 in Booming Voice, and then Piercing Howl. And then you go Blood Craze and Improved Battle Shout. Then you, of course, go straight to the Enrage.
How many points in Improved Battle Shout? 5?
Just one.
Just one, right? Okay, yeah.
But see, this is the thing as well. Don't dual wield leveling as a warrior because yes, if you have on Alliance, if I end up getting a Cruel Barb, then the amount of times that I miss versus the amount of damage that I'm doing at level 19 with a Cruel Barb, it's still like a little bit better whenever you're, dual wielding as opposed to using a two-hander. Just depends on the two-hander you have at the time. But I mean, ideally you'd rather have a Smite's Mighty Reaver and be using that. So
true.
It's just, and the reason why is because your hit rating is complete trash when you're leveling.
That's so true. So, and it's also 5 points that you would have to put into where you could put in other places, and you still do great damage with the two-hander, right?
Yeah. I mean, two-handed damage is just always going to be better, especially I like arms because of the stuff you get from crits, and it just makes your crits more valuable when you have a two-hander.
Yeah.
But so moving on from there, you obviously grab Death Wish immediately next.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
And then this is a part where you can kind of play around a little bit. There's different things to go here. I would never go with the improved Slam because Slam is just garbage. Don't use it.
Right.
If you are able to keep pulling things a lot, then you can go into improved Cleave. But the best part that I think to do here is just to go ahead and finish maxing out Battle Shout.
Okay.
So then that opens up Flurry. Obviously, Flurry is amazing.
So good.
You want Flurry, and then you get Bloodthirst.
Bloodthirst, right, yeah.
Mm-hmm. And then you just start filling out arms the same way that you did before, which is 3 in Rend, 2 in Deflection, 5 in Tactical Mastery. Then you go Deep Wounds, 1 in Anger Management, and then instead of doing 1 in Overpower here, you could go with Prove Charge, but I still want to try to get the most out of my Overpower that I can.
Gotcha.
And then you go Impale, and then 3 into two-handed weapon damage, because you're still leveling. This is if you were to continue leveling as Fury past 40, but don't. Just don't do that.
So this is for leveling. Now, would this be good in endgame PvE, or no, is this just more for leveling?
If you are Horde, yes, this is good at in-game PvE because you're wanting to do two-handed Fury, but as Alliance, you dual-wield Fury.
Gotcha.
And the reason why is because of Wind Fury Totem. Wind Fury Totem is far too good with a two-hander.
Dude, and let me just talk about Wind Fury for a second, guys. So, as a warrior, right, imagine every hit, it's slow, but it's so meaningful. You get rage from it. Now imagine that you have the chance to double that. To get double the amount of rage, right? To get double that amount of white damage hit. Not only for DPS, but for tanking. Like Melderon will attest to this, when we're dual leveling as a shaman warrior, it makes it tanking so much easier for him. He has so much more rage, so much more threat. Dude, this is why people love Horde so much. Like, when you're a melee, whether you're a rogue, whether you're a friggin' warrior, Wind Fury Totem is just so fucking good. It's insane. It is insane. It is absolutely insane. Atticus, could you explain why arms is better for leveling in your opinion? That's a good question.
So, like I was saying, I like to have anger management early on. That's really good. Like, it just helps you with, going from mob to mob, and this goes along with using spirit. Like using spirit gear, because you're going to have less downtime between mobs, so you're going to be able to pull more rage overall, and then if you slow that decay, you're going to be able to pull even more rage, so ultimately you're going to be killing things faster overall. And then, like I said, with the improved rend and deep wounds and impale and all that, like, I just feel like it's just way better as far as damage goes, and also, like, it just makes everything, like, just feel better for me. Like, I really, really like being arms in general. Like, it just makes me level faster because I'm just so used to it. But I mean,
and if you get into a PvP encounter too, like, it's so useful too.
Yeah, like, that's another thing is, like, if you're on a PvP server, like, you can't go wrong having all of the abilities that you're gonna have in your max level PvP spec against people who are in a leveling spec.
Wow. I think I'm sold, dude. If I were to level a warrior, I would definitely go arms, honestly. It just sounds like, for me, like, my play style, what I like to do, how I would be playing. So and so when it comes to stances, right, you're always still going to be, you would charge in battle stance, right, and then go right to Berserker, correct?
Yes. Yeah. Once you get Berserker stance, yeah, you pretty much, I go, like, it depends on how long I think the fight's going to last. Like, if I think I need to use Rend, then I'll keep it up, but after 30... or 36, I mean, when you get Whirlwind, Rend becomes less important.
Okay.
And prioritizing having Rage for Whirlwind is better.
Gotcha.
And Dundane, no, Alliance would never go Two-Handed Fury for end-game content. But while leveling, yes, you can go Two-Handed Fury until 40, and then switch to arms after that.
Okay. So even if, like, you get a really good two-handed weapon, like, say, BRE or something like that, it's still better to go dual-wield as Alliance?
Yeah, I mean, I still feel like it is, because, like,
plus if you're
depends
human
on the weapon
too,
you
right?
have, yeah.
And if you're human, so what I'm hearing too is, like, if you're human and you get, sword specialization, and you get, like, 2 really good swords, that is just so much better for Alliance than it would be Horde.
And yes, Melderon, once Whirlwind and Mortal Strike are both available, yes, you prioritize Mortal Strike over everything. It just hits way too hard.
Oh yeah, Mortal Strike is,
yeah.
And so the only thing about, like, that's why a lot of people don't use Mortal Strike in raids or whatever, because it's a debuff slot also. But so Mortal Strike is a vicious strike that deals weapon damage plus 85 and wounds the target, reducing effectiveness of healing by 50% for 10 seconds. So it's so good in PvP as well, man. Like, when I get Mortal Strike as a priest, I'm just like, really? It sucks so much.
The day they took that out, it was just rip warriors, man. Like,
no, first they reduced it to 25, right? And then they got rid of it completely. Like, why?
Even then, it was just lame. Like, I was just like, I'm not trying to, sit here and, like, have to get into, like, a who's gonna run out of mana fast.
Yeah. Dude, like, it made, like, I remember BC Arena was so good, like, warrior, druid, so many times I'd be going in there as a priest and, having 50% reduced healing, like, that makes you, first of all, spend way more mana, and, the chances are, a lot of the times, the warrior can do more damage than you can heal. It's just so dangerous, and it's just so good.
Yeah, and I mean, having the Mortal Strike, like, even if you can keep up with healing, you're going to go out of mana a lot quicker. So it's just devastating on many different levels. It does a ton of damage. It forces them to heal more. It forces them to go out of mana faster.
Right. So what are some of the really good weapons in Molten Core and, like, BWL that you're going to be looking for?
Bone Reaper's Edge.
Bone Reaper's Edge, yeah.
Don't get anything else.
Nice.
Yeah, I mean, that's what you go with. But I mean, you're in there with 40 people, so, like, you're lucky to get anything. So any kind of two-hander that's just going to be better than the blue you've got, like, just get it. Like, you're looking at speed and weapon damage at the top end, basically. I mean, I definitely think that the best thing you should go for, like pre-raid BIS, is just Arcanite Reaper. I mean,
Arcanite Reaper, right?
even though some may say they have higher DPS, Arcanite Reaper's a 3.8 speed. It's going to give you harder crits.
Gotcha. Yeah, and the other thing, bell-wise too, like you got to be careful with weapons that have debuff slots, because now, like we were talking about the BRE thing, right? And I thought it had that. I think but there are weapons that have chance on hits that cause a debuff slot, and it was a big deal, especially back in the day when there was only 8 debuff slots. So a lot of warriors couldn't bring certain weapons to raids because of that debuff slot that they would be taking. So even if a weapon was really good, but if it had that debuff slot, a lot of times they wouldn't use it because of that.
And you could get lucky and be the one who gets to use Nightfall, though. I think Nightfall's slightly better than Arcanite Reaper. So
Kigo says, I have missed it, but did you discuss about abilities to train leveling as a warrior? For example, I heard it's not worth investing into Thunderclap.
So real
That's
quick,
a good
just
point. So like,
is
Thunderclap like shit, right?
Yeah, I mean, like, and the only thing that increases with Thunderclap is like the damage, and I think that maybe one of the later ones increase the percentage that it slows them down as far as their weapon speed goes. But yeah, I mean, Thunderclap, Demoralizing Shout, Shield Bash, Revenge, Sunder Armor, Mocking Blow, Slam, and Hamstring. All of those, they're not worth upgrading because, for one, like, some of them you just don't use. Like Slam, you don't use. Mocking Blow, you can use to like deal a little bit of damage here and there, but I mean, it's very, very few and far between. It has like a 1-minute cooldown, so it's not like a one you spam. And then Hamstring, the only increases for Hamstring are a 5% increase to the slow and then another 5% increase to slow.
Gotcha.
But like, you don't even get the second one until like level 54.
Oh, wow. Really?
Yeah, so there's no point in like throwing, because I think by the time you train rank 2, it's like a gold 50 or something or level it up, which is a lot for an ability that's only increasing 5% of the damage.
That is
a lot.
That is a lot, yeah.
Thanks for watching, everyone. Stay tuned for more DefCamp and Melderon TV content, and don't forget to head over to Atacas' channel and drop him a subscribe. In the meantime, don't forget to leave a like and a comment on this video, and be on the lookout for new DefCamp and Melderon TV content by subscribing. And thank you patrons for making videos like this one possible. Keep on keybonding and grinding, baby. I hope to see you in Classic Azeroth. Greetings, adventurers. Melderon here. Thank you all so much for watching this video. If you'd like to support some official DefCamp Melderon t-shirts and hoodies, head on over to Brand Media's DefCamp Melderon TV merchandise website. The link is in the description below.